just welcome everyone. Hi, this is Dana G. I'm the program coordinator for PHSNE. Before we begin the show and tells tonight, I'm going to introduce our president, John Felix, who will share a few words.
Thank you, Dana. And if everybody else can maybe mute so that we don't hear any background noises, that would be great. Welcome. This is the first meeting of our 51st year in PHSNE, which is quite amazing when you think of it. I hope everybody had a great new year. We had our first board meeting earlier today and it went very well. We have 5 brand new board members, and I think that with their help, we're going to have a great year coming up, a lot of interesting activities. Before I get into a bit more, I do want to thank Ben Kudo. Some of you may know that Ben had to leave our board, but he's still an active member, of course. He used to coordinate all of this arrangements and the links and set us up with the rehearsals and everything. And he has stepped down. Dana and myself will be taking over his duties, and I put Dana's name first because she seems to be job. But I do want to thank Ben. Before he left, he set up all these links and we left us in pretty good shape. So thank you, Ben, for the last couple of years of helping us out on the programs every Sunday night. I also want to thank Dana. Dana's have done a fantastic job for years now, and I was so glad to hear that she will be continue doing it, hopefully for this new year. Finally, I just want to mention about show and tell. Some of you may think, wow, this is kind of unusual for PHSNE to have a program without a single guest speaker, have a show and tell. I think it can be really further from the truth, though. From the very early days of our meetings 50 years ago, show and tell had been an intricate part of our meetings. Part of our mission was to have a very strong education component. And the founders of the society realized that one of the best ways to do that is have the most knowledgeable people in the organization make presentations for just maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And that developed to be show and tell. It became very, very popular. People would show up, usually with some object in a paper bag. And before the guest speaker started talking, they would get up there and give a presentation. Very, very, very educational. And the membership learned an incredible amount of new information every meeting because of that show and tell. There were a couple meetings, usually in September, that was set aside with the format exactly like Dana has set up today. It was all show and tell. And there was usually introduced with what have you found over the summer? Because of course, most of the people that were in the club at the time was out collecting all over the place during the summer months, and they couldn't wait to get back in September and show us what we found. So I thank you, Dana, for resurrecting this format. I also admire you. It's complicated enough, I think, sometimes when you have just a single speaker, and for you to have the guts to arrange 10 speakers to come up and formatting all that on your very first time out. I really admire that. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to you and we can start our presentations. Thank you.
Thanks, John. As folks come in, if you're not muted, I may mute you. I've hit mute all now so that we can have everyone on mute. Please stay on mute during the presentations and I will call on the speakers in order. And we're going to aim for like 6 minutes per presentation. And I'm going to ask that people type their questions if they have questions into the chat. And we're going to do like maximum 2 questions per session because we want to keep things moving. So type your questions into the chat, and the folks who are presenting, just keep your eyes on the chat when you're done. And someone can always put their email address if they want to correspond with you, or you can share your email address in the chat if folks want to correspond with you. And let's see. And then, so what I'm going to do is when we begin, When you're called on, unmute yourself. And when you're done, please mute yourself again. So we're going to start. It's 7:36, and tonight's first presenter is Reich Lent. Reich, take it away.
Get this to work. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Come on. Come on, baby. Give it up. I always have this trouble because I don't see very well. Come on.
Like we can see you.
Well, I know you can see me. I'm trying to get to the screen share, which was fine until just now. There we are. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. For some reason, I've been passionate about Canon cameras for what seems to be a ridiculously long time. So I thought I'd do a little compressed thing about the 7 important cameras that Canon did while they were still making SLRs. 2 of them I don't have here in front of me, but the other 5 of them are here. So very quickly, founded in 1937, they did 252 film type cameras from 1937 to 2006, 4 a year. Think about that. The 1 million FX units are the ones that were the first, more or less, consumer cameras. And then, of course, the 5 million cameras, which were in the AE1 and also in the AEX. There were 3 lens types, I think you all know. Super Canomatic R, that's where I'm going to start out with, the FL and the FD. I don't have any FL camera lenses, but I have some FDs. Here's the thing that got to me today, which was, looking back about 12 years, the difference between Nikon and Canon's business. And the reason for that is, and I've read now a lot more about it, is how great Canon was on focusing on being with the consumers. So without further ado, I'm going to try and get a camera up here, and we're going to get to see what's what. Now, let me see where I need to get to. Come on. Dana, guide me, or I just have to get rid of share. There we go. Now, where am I? Dana, I'm off the screen. I don't know where I am.
The zoom icon is blue. If you look in your tray at the bottom, the zoom is blue usually, or if you're on the web, you should see the little zoom icon.
I don't. I'm screwed down here. I don't know what
I
happened.
can see you. I don't see the screen because you stopped sharing the screen. Are you looking for another thing to share?
I'm looking for my camera. That's what I'm really looking for.
Okay.
Sorry, this is going to be the usual mess for me. Come on. Drop me out.
Okay, we'll come back to you, okay? At the end? Okay. All right. All right, so up next, we have Ben Kudo. Ben, you ready?
I'm ready. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Right. That was really fantastic. I love seeing all that history crammed into one slide. That was really fantastic. That was quite a visual. So Dana, thanks for putting this together. My name is Ben Kudo. I'm a PHSNE member and a former board member. Huge fan of Photographica and all things photography. And one thing I got into recently is 3D printing camera accessories. So I'm going to share my screen and just show you all a bit about 3D printing for camera accessories. Dana, can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can get to the next. All right, so for anyone who hasn't seen 3D printing before, this is basically how it works. You start out with the plastic and you melt it almost through like a hot glue gun. And basically it adds one layer of plastic at a time until you've got the complete object done and built. So it's literally like a glue gun that's melting plastic and just depositing it layer after layer after layer until you get your object. So one really cool application for this has been photography for me. Of course, I make little wrenches or different things around the house to fix problems, but when you need a rare lens cap and you want it on short notice, 3D printing is a really cool way to do that. Can you see it full screen, Dana? Thumbs up? Yeah. Okay, good. So here's an example. These are some X-Acto caps. We all know how difficult X-Acto caps can be to find. So these ones even fit my my top core 1.4 58 millimeter, which has a really deep rear element. And we can do it different colors, different. You got the rear cap, you got the body cap. Then this one was for a Contax rangefinder camera. Again, you can see the different colors, but anything that's made out of plastic, you can pretty much print. It's a really good thing for prototyping. So a lot of times when you're trying to create something from 3D printing and you have to design it from scratch, it can be really hard to get it all to fit together right away. But the cool thing about 3D printing is you can start it and in about like 10 or 15 minutes or sometimes a couple hours, you've got your part built and you can try it and fix it and revise it and keep working on it. So you can see this was the very early phases of a rehousing project that I was working on for Canon FD. And then this was the final product, which came out really great. So basically what I did here, starting off, if you look at this gray part here, that was the original focus barrel. That's been removed, as well as I ended up taking off the aperture dial as well and replacing that with 3D printed parts. So this is basically used for cinematography. They can use these gears to remote control the lenses and do the focus. Plus I added on those two little knobs so that you could have like a really fun place to grip the lens if you wanted to adjust it on the fly. So this is just a better look at what those parts looked like when they were designed. So they went through a lot of iterations. I printed them many times until they all just got perfect. And then I put it all assembled. This is part of my 3D printing lab. You can see I have a ton of 3D printers, ton of different types of filaments, but basically up at the top, that's a roll of plastic. That's what shoots down into basically the glorified glue gun that will go ahead and get computer controlled and it will print something out on the board. So it's a lot of fun. And just to end, this is one that I did for one of my clients who wanted to use a Medalist, Kodak Medalist, and take the lens off and make it so that it could be mounted on a Sony mirrorless camera. So basically what I did was I had the helicoid removed and I designed and 3D printed this basically as like a flange adapter that then went into a little focusing helicoid, and that went onto Sony NEX mount to really get it to connect into the camera. So that was just a really fun project I thought everyone would enjoy seeing. This is my contact information if you ever need to get a hold of me. But yeah, that's what I've got for tonight. So thanks so much, Dana.
Thanks, Ben. That was amazing. And there's one question from David Starkman, wants to know, are all of the lens caps slip-on or screw-on?
That's a great question. We have screw-on as well as slip-on. So this is a really good segue. The two most popular plastics to print with are PLA plastic, which is rigid, and TPU plastic, which is flexible. So with the flexible filament, we can print flexible lens caps that will flip onto the front of a lens, like it's called a push cap. And then we have hard plastic ones that are printed with little flanges and fins to fit onto things like your Contax 50 millimeter rear lens cap. So it's screw on and push on.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Only briefly.
Yeah, Ben, can you coat the plastic parts?
I can't do it at my shop, but There is a process by which you can metallize 3D printed parts, and it involves plating them in nickel first,
Yeah,
and then going on and you can put on more advanced metals on top of that. So it's a really cool process. I think sky's the limit with 3D printing.
thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. That's fascinating.
Thanks, Dana.
Next up is Dwight.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. So I'm a member of this group because I collect film memorabilia, which I've been doing for 48 years, primarily these glass slides, which I think a lot of you are familiar with. They measure 3 1/4 by 4 inches, and these were the precursors to previews as we know them today. But what I'm here to talk about today are my lobby cards, which picture cameras, which I thought would interest you guys. So I'm going to share my screen. And can you see this?
We can see your desktop, but we can't see the presentation.
You can't see the presentation. I just hit share.
Right. You have to have the presentation open so you can choose that window.
Oh, it's open. Let's see. Replace.
I think you chose the desktop instead of the presentation.
Oh, okay, wait.
If you stop sharing
Oops, wait. How do I stop sharing?
down at the bottom, the green icon.
Oh. Can you, oh wait, share screen. Here we go. No. Back to meeting. I'm so
Stop.
sorry.
If you go down to the share screen and stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm getting a full view of everybody here.
Do you see the control where it says stop sharing your screen, Dwight? Down at the bottom. If you mouse all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I'm not, did you sign on? Ben, can you help out? Did you sign
Yeah,
on?
Dwight, are you on one monitor or 2 monitors?
I'm on 2 monitors.
Okay.
I've got the my presentation on one of them already opened up.
Okay, leave it there for now. And Dana, on your view options, do you see at the top, can you hit stop presenter sharing?
I don't see that.
Do you see? Yeah,
Let me
it's
go participants.
no, it's usually up at the top. There's like a green bar and it says you are viewing Dwight Cleveland's screen.
But I don't have the ability to not. There's no option to make it exit.
Do you see the green?
Oh, I see it. I see it. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's good.
Oh, here, wait. Oh,
Now
share
this
it.
time, Dwight, when you hit share screen, what you're going to want to do is on that first pop-up that comes up, you want to make sure that you select just the one that looks like the
desktop.
presentation.
There we go. Okay, thank
Let's see if
you.
that works. There we go.
Did that do it?
Yes,
Yep.
we can see it.
Okay, thank you. By the way, Ben, I love modern technology, solving niggling little problems, which
Yeah, exactly. Thank you,
do
Dwight.
with your product. So it's
Thanks.
absolute magic. So this is a set of lobby cards. The top left one over here is a title card, and these are 7 scene cards. I collect the title card and the portrait card, which is probably this one over here. This is a film with Connie Bennett from 1932. This just gives you an idea of these lobby cards historically. So let's see, how do I do this? Wait, oh. Ben, how do I advance this? I was supposed to hit just
Try
this.
your, you have a right arrow on your, try to hit the arrow on your keyboard.
Yeah, oh, here. I'm hitting the.
All right, you see, yeah, close that. And then see right on the right side there, it says 1 and then 14. And then
Yeah,
underneath that, hit the down arrow. in
there.
Try
Okay,
that.
all right. So I'm just going to rifle through these. These are in chronological order. These all measure 11 by 14 inches. They all picture a camera. This is from 1917, a film exposure with Hampton Del Ruth. here he is, 1927, Marcel Perez. You can see the camera back over here. Here's another one from the same film. You can see the camera in the background. This is Gymnasium Jim, 1922, with Billy Bevan, a Max Sennett famous comedian from the early silent era. Let's see what we got. The New Mama, 1922, with Sidney Smith. This one is over here concealed. Making Movies, 1922, with Johnny Jones. So this is the title card, and here's a scene card. This was a precursor of the Our Gang comedies, which came after this. Here's a circus movie, Flip Flops, with this big long camera here, which is kind of cool. Another one, Daredevil, 1923, with Ben Turpin. He was a very famous comedian who worked for Max Sennett. Here he is over here, same film. And Contraband, this is 1925. You can see the quality of this jumps up significantly from 1923 to 1925. Here's the camera back here. And then this is a short, Cupid and the Clock, 1927. So that's what I have to share with you. And I've been collecting these for 48 years, like I mentioned. And these are the only ones I've run into. I've owned hundreds of thousands of movie posters and lobby cards over the years. And this is the only group that have these cards in them. So I'm happy to share them with you. And if you have any questions, let me know. I don't know how to get out of this.
Okay, I closed it for you, Dwight.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That was fascinating.
Helping
Great.
hands.
Those were wonderful. I love Constance Bennett. All right, next up we have Mark. Is Mark with us? Mark Cronquist? Okay, I'm not seeing Mark signed in.
Mark's
we're
on
gonna-
Pacific time.
Oh. Oh, I hope he doesn't sign in at 10:30.
Well, we'll wait till the end for Mark.
Okay, yep, all right. So next up is Jack Billington. You ready, Jack?
Yep, ready. Hi, my name is Jack Billington. I'm sitting here with my wife, Claire. Quite a while. We started about a year or two before.
Jack, you're freezing up a bit.
You want me to talk a little louder?
You're freezing. The screen is freezing intermittently. Just want to let you know.
I am doing what, sir? Say that again, please.
The screen was just freezing for a second, but you're fine now.
Oh, okay, thank you. We always brought our show and tells in a paper bag at PHSNE's meetings. So I had a scarf I threw over this one here, a pillowcase. This is a daguerreotype camera. It was made by L and L.H. Lewis in New York about 1851. We all know that the beginning of photography was daguerreotypes, and this is the type of camera some photographers use. This is called the half plate, and it's a half plate because it makes pictures this size. It can make them smaller, but it can't make any bigger than this. Now, this camera can be recognized because it's got a bellows on it. And it's probably the only company that put a bellows on a daguerreotype camera. Interesting story about this camera. In East Greenwich, Rhode Island. The man was selling everything in his cellar for $1, like you do a yard sale. And he was doing it to clean the place out. He had sold it and he wanted to make sure everything was out of the cellar. So somebody went over and looked at it and they said, "What is this?" And he told them it was an enlarger. And he says, that guy had a yard sale later on in the day. He was quite an operator, he was out shopping. And he put in his yard sale, and a friend of mine come across the yard sale. Oh, he said, it's an Elwood enlarger. He said, you can buy it for $25 because there's parts missing and I'm selling it for the lens. So my friend bought it. About a half an hour later, our phone rang, and my friend was on the phone. And he says, Jack, he says, slightly bigger than yours. I had showed him one that I had, but it didn't have a bellows on it. I said, I'd pay $1,500 for any daguerreotype camera. That's an awful cheap price. Well, he said, I got it at my house. If you want to see it, come on over. So Claire and I went over, and I walked 3 flights of stairs. Took me 2 seconds to get up to the top. He says, it's in the bedroom there. Went in the bedroom. I couldn't believe it. This was sitting on top of the bureau. I come back out, and I says, how'd you know it was a daguerreotype camera? He says, well, it's got the bevels on it. It's got the little door inside here that opens up to put the holder in. And it's got the big lens. He says, that's all you told me it had to have. And that's what this one's got. So I says, fine, I'll buy it. So I asked him why he wanted to sell it to me for $1,500. And it seems so he collected primitive stuff, and a dealer had called him with a case of primitive stuff, and he didn't have the $1,500 to pay for the case. So that's where he come up with the price on this. When the dealers do that, they call it a hold. You pay a commission. He paid $200, and that meant the dealer wouldn't show that to anybody till Monday. This was on Sunday when we were talking, when he bought it off him. And he needed that $1,500 fast. And he says to me, he says, where am I going to get it? He says, to have it Monday. He said, I might be able to get it in the bank. I'm not sure. But he says, I try to go out and find something to sell. And he says, I did. I found this. So that's the story on this daguerreotype camera.
Thank you, Jack. That's amazing. And that is a beautiful camera. I'm so glad that that's what you decided to share with us. That's incredible. And I can see you bounding up the stairs. Mark is here. I just didn't see him in the list. So Jack, I'm going to put you back on mute. All right. And Mark, if you want to go ahead and present, it's all yours. I can't hear anything. Are you muted? Did you connect with the computer sound? Sometimes there's a prompt when you sign in. I see a phone with a red line through it. So I'm not able to hear you. If you open the chat, maybe you can type in the chat.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
Can
now.
you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, good. That's the magic mute code. Anyway, brought in a slate of lenses from Light Lens Labs, and I'll just go through them briefly. I've been shooting with Leica since I was 15, and wanted to, have lenses that nobody else could have. This is an Alcan. It was made for the United States military, and they made about 504 of them in 1966. The current version of the Alcan, and is the video working for you?
No, we can't see anything.
All right, let me go back. Okay, can you see it now?
No, we. Are you on your phone?
Yes.
Ben, do you have any tips for getting the video to work on the phone?
Are you on the Zoom app, or are you, did you call into a phone number?
I'm on the Zoom app.
There should be a button to turn on the video. It's called Start Video. are you on this 503 number?
That's me.
It looks like it's called in. So probably what we'll have to do is have you rejoin the meeting from the app. Don't click on the phone number to call in, but just click on the link and that'll launch your video that way.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thank
hang up.
you.
All right, thanks, Mark. We'll come back to Mark, Dana.
Yes, next on the list is Peter Berg.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Share screen here. Get this camera so we can see what I need you to see. Okay, can everybody see the two cameras that I'm showing?
I can see them.
Okay. What I'm going to share with you are two cameras called Demons. They were made in England, except the interesting part is the name of the company was the American Camera Company. They were made around 1899, and they came in two sizes. The smaller one is the first one I located, and that was at a show in England. I'll move the big one aside a little bit. And that was the only one I knew that existed. This is actually what you're looking at is the back of the camera. The front of the camera, which is where the lens is, the taking lens is back here. I don't want to see you, Jack. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you and see you.
Okay, I was looking at Jack though. I couldn't figure out why. All right. So about a year ago, a little less, I came across a larger version of this camera, which is 3.5 by 3.5. Works on basically the same principle. You load a sheet of film in the bottom of it here in a dark room. And then the shutter on this one is kind of self-contained. Hopefully you can see it when it fires. And then you recock it, lock it down, and it basically is an instantaneous camera. Very uncommon, especially in the United States. And just to read a little bit about them, they were developed by a fellow by the name of Walter Riley in July of 1888. The earliest example is 1889 is when it was patented. They sold for the whole amount of, I think, 25 cents when they were introduced. They're basically nickel-plated cameras that took exposures one at a time. And well, let's see here. They were considered a miniature camera because they said they could be hidden inside of your clothing. They could be used to take squarish pictures and the viewfinder. But they, as they say, they are very uncommon. I don't know if anybody else has ever seen one before here. So they weigh about 3 ounces, so they're fairly light. They're, as I say, the 2 models are 2 1/4 square, and the larger one is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. The specific use of this camera was really not known. We're not sure why they made it, but they marketed it as detection camera to be used in law courts, railway carriages, and divorce cases, which I thought was interesting. Again, an interesting camera from the late 1800s. Any questions, comments?
That's amazing. Those are really handsome cameras.
Say again, Dana?
Those are really handsome cameras.
Yes, they are. As I say, the back is much more handsome than the front because of the engraving on it. I'm moving it around a little bit so you might be able to see where it says Demon on it.
Yep.
I'll take the front off. This is where you would have loaded the film in a darkroom, obviously, on this one or with a sheet. So as I say, didn't even know the large one existed until about a year ago and I got it from a collector, actually from the New York area, who happened to list it for sale. So
Very cool.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see Mark signed back in yet, so let's go to Bill Rosenthal.
You ready for me?
Yes. Up, you're muted for a sec there.
No, I'm unmuted. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Some years ago, after a Photographia show, I attended Jack Naylor's open house, and that was where I was introduced to his Chinese sort of / Japanese magic mirror collection. On the wall, he had a large number of magic mirrors, as you can see in the photograph I'm about to show you, from the journal that was number 3, it published in 1972. 1992, pardon me. You can see the magic mirrors. Were you able to see that? I'm looking at my small picture.
Yes, we could see it.
Fine, thank you. I wanted to add a magic mirror to my photographic collection, but I had a hard time finding one. With Jack's help, he put me in touch with an individual who had one for sale. So what is a magic mirror? Let me read some of the excerpts from Jack's articles published in the journal in October of 1983 and another article in 1992. This is a copy of the article that he gave me. And let me read it to you, and then I'm going to show you what a magic mirror looks like. Those who have studied photographic history of imaging know that the bronze casting known as the magic mirror was the earliest device to project an image which had not been drawn by man. The magic mirror quality was recorded during the Han, Han dynasty in 206 BC to 24 AD. That is when ladies of the court used it before they ladies of the court before the discovery of the mirror could only see themselves reflected in still water. The cast bronze is usually a circular mirror, has a raised pattern on the back face, which when sunlight is passed through it is reflected to the polished front face of the mirror onto a wall or other surface. The casting is generally comprised of 80% copper, 15% tin, and 5% lead. During the cooling process, the front surface of the mirror develops tiny variations in thickness, and you can't really see with the human eye, which correspond to the design on the back. Microscopic variations of the thickness of less than 3/100,000th of an inch allow the image to pass through. Jack referred to the magic mirror to be a pre-photographic shadow entertainment. The 1993 and 94 double issue of the journal carried an article on the Magic Mirror Association meeting in Boston. So that at least at that time, there was a collectors association for magic mirrors. Whether it still is today or not, I don't know. But here's a copy of the article, along with a picture of a Japanese lady holding a mirror. The March 2001 issue of Snapshots shows a picture of Larry Roche holding a magic mirror. There's no article about it, but there's a picture of Larry holding the magic mirror. This is the magic mirror that I purchased from Jack. We had several conversations, and he told me that in operation, not many of them worked as they were intended. This one does work and projects an image, but it's very faint. As you can see, the raised surface, and on the back, actually that is considered the back, and on the front is the polished surface. Now, I've never tried it outside in the sunlight, but I have taken a flashlight in a darkened area and projected it on the back and was able to get an image of well, it's a tree projected on a white surface. So that's my magic mirrors collection. Oftentimes they were round, sometimes they had handles, usually covered in bamboo as this one is. Now, Jack also said that while they originated in China, they were later copied and made in Japan, but in the early years, not made in Japan stamped items. So that's my presentation this evening.
Thank you so much. And Bill, the archives, maybe we can get some of those articles reproduced for people to read. We could see them and we could see the images, but that would be cool.
Would you like me to send you the actual articles?
If you type your email into the chat, folks who want to read them can reach out to you. Would that work? Because I don't have a way to share it
Sure,
unless they're linked, unless they're online. So if you just put your email in the chat, if folks would like to read more about it, maybe they can contact you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see Mark in the list. Unless he is iPhone 5. Is that you, Mark? Okay. Next up is Arabella.
Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, this is kind of a different thing. When you get to be as old as I am, you're looking for excitement at a very slow speed. And I ended up going off into a bog up near Tamworth this fall, in the early fall, and I saw something I really didn't understand. So this is what happened. Okay, now how do I make it go forwards? Let's see. There, okay. First of all, I went to see some goldenrods that were blooming in the bog and took a picture to identify them, and then noticed when I got home that it was crawling with these beautiful little aphids, which of course, like most gardeners, I really didn't like because they're a pest. And I could see from this different life cycles of the aphids at this one period of time, which I didn't understand either. Okay, so then I went next door and I found a bunch of lily pads with bees landing on them, honeybees. And I thought, that's funny. I wonder what they're up to. The lily pads are all covered with little black spots, it looked like. And I took pictures of them, but I didn't have my big telephoto lens, so I didn't know what I was looking at until I got home. And then this is what I saw when I enlarged my pictures. These little honeybees were slurping up something which appeared to be something coming from the aphids that were eating the lily pads. So I thought, well, what in the world is that about? And of course, I had no idea. And so I asked all my science friends about what was going on. Most of them had never seen anything like that. And it turns out that what was happening is that the honeybees had run out of flowers to nectar on and to collect pollen from. So they were harvesting honeydew from the aphids. And you can see this honeybee is really quite full of honeydew. So I thought that was quite fun. So I volunteer work with the Native Plant Trust in Massachusetts and all over New England. And I asked Uli, who's the head horticulturalist, what was going on. None of the bug people could tell me. And Uli said, yes, there's a particular kind of aphid that starts life on prunus trees, cherry trees, where it lays its eggs. And then when the eggs hatch, later on in the summer, these little guys take off and land on the lily pads and work on the lily pads. So what this brought to mind for me was that you can study something endlessly, but unless you find a context for it, it probably doesn't have too much relevance. So I'm really deeply committed to conservation and trying to figure out how the life cycles in different areas work. And I'd never thought about the fact that those nasty little aphids had any practical purpose. But if our honeybees depend upon them in the off season, how great is that? Also, I'm sure you all know that ants farm aphids because they want that honeydew. So they protect the aphids on your garden plants from any predators who might want to eat them. And you probably have seen them on your peonies. But anyway, there are an awful lot of different kinds of aphids, and 250 of the 4,000 are pests. And I didn't know this, of course, but a lot of different aphids have part of their life cycle on one plant and then another part on another plant. Also, the female aphids can produce babies asexually. And when they hatch, they're already pregnant. So if you need more information, here's some stuff to look it up about. But it's nice to know that at my advanced age, I can continue learning. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Arabella. That was fascinating.
How do I stop sharing?
I just did it.
Thank you.
The
Okay.
pictures are great. I really could see what was happening.
It's amazing. Thank God for the good Canon lenses, right?
Yes, I have a few of those. Thank you. Let's see. Next up is Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff. Can you see me?
Yes, when you're whoever's speaking is shown large on the screen, but that's probably not what you're seeing.
Okay, very good. I was a U.S. Navy photographer back in the early 70s, and I don't really collect cameras, but I do have every camera I've ever owned, as well as my father, my grandfather, some of my aunts and uncles, and I have a few U.S. Navy cameras. One thing that I did get recently, we'll get to it. Right there is my Navy, all the different cameras that I have used over the years, including an old Kodak folder that was my grandfather's. This is the one we're going to talk about today. For years, I'd always wanted a Hasselblad. It's like people want a Ferrari or something. And I was helping out a fellow ham radio operator who was having to price all the ham radio gear from a person who passed away in Walpole. And they had a bunch of camera gear. So they asked me to come in and give them an idea of what they had and what the things were worth. And there were there were like 3 Hasselblads. There were several speed graphics and so on. After I finished, I mentioned to them that I would love a Hasselblad. And they said, well, we'll talk to the estate company. And I'd asked them, how much. I told them what I thought it was worth, and that I'd only be able to go for like $200 for it. It's a Hasselblad 1000F with the focal plane shutter. And they came back to me and said, well, because you help so much, would you spend $100 on it? And I said, sure. No idea whether it worked or not. Ran a roll of film through it. Does not appear to have any light leaks. One thing that's interesting on this, somebody must have replaced the waist level finder with a newer one, because the older ones have like gears on the side. This does not. It's a little bit better. And the thing that also with the Kodak Ektar shutter lens on it is it has a little lever that, well, once you set your f-stop, you can open it wide. It doesn't change your f-stop. And then you have to remember, tell me how I know, that you have to pull that lever back again to set it, close it to the f-stop. I've blown a bunch of shots that way, forgetting to move the little lever. I also, it had a lens hood on it, but it was the wrong hood. So I was getting vignetting on some of the pictures. And today I'm shooting my first roll of color film with it. And it has a dark slide on the back that you have to remember to pull out, or the shutter will not fire. But it was like, it's something I've always wanted. It's sort of like I've been trying to find a Leica US Navy marked, and you can't find them. And if you can find them, you can't afford them. But now suddenly I have a Hasselblad, and you feel like, you walk out there, you feel like Ansel Adams when you're going to take a picture. And as much as I love doing bird photography with all my Canon cameras, all my digital, there's just something about getting your light meter, getting your readings, and then using your waist level finder on the Hasselblad. It's like, wow, I still can't get over the fact that I managed to get it, and for the price too. All the furniture on it and everything is in perfect shape. Some of the chrome is a little bit rough, but it just shows age, and it shows that it was well used. And it's just, as I say, I still am in awe of the fact that I have one. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for listening, and back to you.
Thanks, Jeff. That's wonderful. I'm so glad you finally got one. And I love your wall of Navy cameras. If you ever want to share about those, let us know. That would be terrific. Let's see. Up next is Victor.
Okay, I'm just gonna share this real quick. Hopefully everybody can see that photo.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So for those of you who, excuse me, for those who don't know me, my name is Victor Cilio. Excuse me, I just getting over a cold. And I started collecting photos around April or May of 2023. And then I was at an auction and I picked up a large group of photos. So what I'm about to show here is just a small sample that I just found really interesting. Most of these photos are from the early 1920s, mid 1920s. There might be one or two from the 40s. But back then, a lot of the photos and a lot of family photos like this one seem to all be around the car. The car was a big focal point. Even here, this one here, they got the baby up on the front. And a lot of these photos that you see here also, these were all mostly from Saskatchewan, Canada. This one here a little later. This is, I think, 1930, maybe 40. But again, the cars seem to always be a focal point in a lot of photos. This one here from the 20s. I don't know a lot of these cars. I know some of them are Model Ts. I don't know exactly about this one. I can tell you that, the cars were a big thing for a lot of people. It really started to symbolize the freedom back in the 20s. This one here, the little not so clear, a little out of focus. This one I'm going to guess is from the 30s, maybe 40s. Again, people, even pictures with their children, they have them. They're on the front end of the car. This one here, showing a woman driving in the 1920s. There were people called flappers. I'm pretty sure this is kind of a good, in my opinion, a good capture of one. And again, here we go. This is, again, up in Saskatchewan, Canada. You can see there's not a whole lot around. And again, the car was just this big focal point. I just like the photos. I really love the old ones, especially the ones from the 20s. Captures that history. And this one I really like, because to me, this is kind of like, I don't know, to me, this is like a Depression era type photo. This is an old Model T. You can see in the front the crank handle. It just, I don't know, it just seems to capture that era, in my opinion. I call this one Bonnie and Clyde. It just seems that way. Obviously, they're not Bonnie and Clyde, but it just kind of has that feeling to it. And again, these are the people, these are the 20s. That's the fashion and the style. Once again, a lot of them were just around the car. Again, here, all dressed up, they're going out, wintertime, but the cars in the photos. In this one here, this one's pretty old. I thought maybe this might be a Model A. I was told no, told it was still a Model T. But I mean, these go pretty far back. Now, this one is pretty nice here. It's hard to tell. There's actually a woman in the driver's seat driving. But this next one, I really love this. I mean, this is really sweet. She's got all the flags on here. This reminds me, maybe it was like maybe some kind of a 4th of July parade. I thought it was weird because I'm pretty sure, again, that this photo is from Saskatchewan, Canada, but these look like American flags. This here, I don't know. This is another, just this person in the white looks almost like a gunslinger or something. Crazy photo. And here they are again. Pose on top of the car. I found this one to be interesting. This one, I don't know, it's kind of like the highwaymen. These guys have rifles. They're shooting at something. They're definitely up on some kind of farmland. And again, the car kind of makes an appearance here. And again, this gentleman, all dressed up. He's on the Model T. Another 1920s, I would consider this person, this woman, to be what they were considered flappers back in the 20s. This is all I have. I didn't mean to go through them too fast. I want to try to stay in that time frame. But again, I like hunting down the old photos. I really think they capture just a part of history. And it's not something that can just be recreated. So that's just something I like to do.
Thanks, Victor. Those are great. And if you ever make it to Photographica in April, there'll be a lot of image dealers there with plenty of photos if you're interested in collecting.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I'm gonna stop the share.
Yeah, I'll stop that right there.
Thank you. So I don't see Mark log back in. Reich, do you want to go up? I don't hear.
Okay.
You. There you go. I
All
can
right.
see.
Come on. Where am I supposed to be here?
Were you going to show us the camera? Because we saw the title card on the
Right.
slideshow.
That's what I'm trying to get to here.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm having so much trouble. I really don't. All I'm seeing is you, Dana, with the PHSNE logo.
Reich, if you turn your camera back on, we can see you really well. So if you just lift your camera up,
yeah,
it's like a perfect shot of you. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so if you hold the camera up, we'll get a really good view of it if you hold it like
It's not happening where it's happening. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah, you look great right now.
Okay, but I'm not seeing anything on the screen except for my. All right, give me a minute.
We can see you, Reich. So if you just hold the camera up,
That's exactly what we're going to do.
Let's see.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep, just a little higher.
Yep, I know, right here.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Okay, so this is the original Canon Flex. I fell in love with this and actually managed to get a whole bunch of at least 2 lenses and a working light meter for this. And one of the things that's really funky about it is that they decided to make this a fast trigger advance lever for film. Here, there you go. Do it again. There we go. Do it again. And it has a flat foot on the back. Canon had a big thing for f1.2 lenses. This is a 58 millimeter f.12, and the thing is about the size of a jar of peanut butter. It's just amazing. Here's the other thing that I love about this is that get it off here. You can see that they had already figured out they needed to have a removable pentaprism. And in fact, there were 2 versions of this camera that had this, and then the rest did not, all the way up until the F1, which had exactly the same kind of sliding rails for this particular, in this particular camera. I get to show you that, the new F1 later. As I said before, the FL series of cameras and lenses, starting with the F lenses with all sorts of follow-up things like FTB, FTBN, and that sort of thing, lasted about 12 or 13 years, and they had over 1 million pieces. But this is my favorite of all. This is the Canon EF. This has a Copal shutter, and it has a both automatic exposure and shutter priority exposures. And this was sort of the trial run for the next camera, which is the AE1. This one was built on the chassis of an F1, and it's really fabulous. The only thing is that the thing eats so much electricity, you have to change the batteries about every week. The other thing that I love about it is that the camera itself is the only one, according to Canon, that had a Copal shutter in it, a vertical metal shutter. Next, everybody knows this one, the AE1. When it started in 1976, this was the most popular camera at the time, and as on that handout, over its time in probably less than 10 years, there were 5 million of them made, 5 million AE1s. And there were some additional ones, the IA ones and all of the other follow-on ones. And I love this because when you pick it up, it's light. You take this, and I got rid of my F1 back in the 70s when I got this. Next one. This, and Ben will be laughing, this is an F1 new, or a new F1. This has everything on it mounted. It's got a zoom lens. It's got a motor drive. It's got, yes, it's got a special finder at the top. I refer to this as the snorkel finder because if I stand up like so, can you see it okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you can look down in here, or you can turn it up like here. Here's the problem. It's not big enough for either one. But if you take this, what I think of as the snorkel finder out, you can get back into the automatic stuff. And I won't bother you with trying to get the motor drive to run. But nonetheless, this is a terrific camera. Here's the one thing that Canon forgot. It's only for pros. No one can figure out how to work this thing. Believe me, it took me an hour today to reassemble it. Last one. This was the last and finest example of modern design for cameras. This was designed by an Italian car maker called, and this is the Canon T90. Everything in here was mostly done automatically. There's a beautiful LCD panel on the top, and it really works quite well. It's got it. If you turn it on, it's just going to go, wham, 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 wham. And I'm happy to have found this. I got the body for $200, which it seemed to me like a huge bargain because this was a terrific camera at the time. But the whole run of the Canon R lenses, FL lenses, and FD lenses lasted only 27 years. This is the thing that really throws me, because 1 year after this, they put on the EOS and EF flanges, and every camera person who had FD lenses and the earlier lenses was screaming about why Canon had done that. Nikon, as you may know, started in 1959 also and ran all the way till now with the F mount in various guises. So that was the one thing that annoyed customers. I'm going to leave it alone there. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you, Reich. Ben has left a comment. It's the best Canon collection he's seen in a long time. And
I wish I had the F1 that I used to use for 5 years. And before that, I actually have a couple of the what I think of as the F series, which were, you know, they were great consumer cameras, but no pro would use them.
I have an A1 that I've had for 40 years.
Yes, there you go, lady.
So I love Canon glass.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. And I don't see Mark. I don't know if he made it back into the meeting. Mark, are you here?
You know, I saw him myself. Let me mute myself here, and I'll get out of your way.
Dana, I do see iPhone 5 Mark, but he would have to unmute himself. And then he would also have to possibly turn on the camera. Mark, can you unmute yourself? Dana, we may not be able to get Mark. Oh, yeah, I haven't heard Mark yet.
Okay, so what we'll do, I'll reach out to him and maybe we can ask him to join the next meeting as a show and tell presenter. We are at 8:38. Thank you, everyone. Can we all unmute and give everyone a round of applause? That was amazing. That was amazing. And what I'm going to suggest, David Starkman had something that he wanted to share real quick. David, if it's
Yeah.
Pete, please go ahead.
I can make it real fast. Can you see me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Let me speak for you. Okay. This is something a little newer. I mean, I'm a 3D photographer. I got started with the Viewmaster personal camera in 1976. And then my first realist format camera was not a stereo realist. It was a Wallensack. And I went through a few others of Bush Veriscope. And then the ultimate for me was this camera. It's, you know, better light there. This came out in 1992. It's called the RBT X2. And RBT was a German company that was taking SLRs, chopping them apart, having custom parts made, and putting them back together as a fully functional single lens reflex stereo camera. So they made a custom top, custom bottom. They got everything together. So this was based on the Ricoh KR10M camera, which is a Ricoh camera that had a built-in motor drive, motorized winding, motorized rewinding. They put a custom chip in so that the film advance was automatically working correctly and counting correctly on the LCD finder. And it takes the lenses this one has Tokina 28-70 zooms, which are mechanically coupled with links. And it takes two full frame 35 millimeter frames. And in between each, it has a 76 millimeter lens base, so that in between each pair of 35 millimeter frames is one more frame. So it gets 18 full frame stereos on a 36 shot roll of film. And this came out in 1992. And it was about $2,500 at the time. But for a stereo photographer used to a 1950s camera, this was like a total dream come true. And it's one camera I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of, even though I don't shoot film very much anymore. So that's my show and tell.
Thank you, David. That's really wonderful. it's so incredible to see everyone's equipment and everyone's images. It's really entertaining. And I think what we're going to try and do is at our next speaker presentation, if time allows, I think we're going to do show and tells at the end so that the speaker will have time to do their presentation. And then at the end, we'll have people who will sign up for like one session per Zoom meeting. So I'm going to type the email address in the bottom here. It's programs, plural, @phsne.org. If you would like to join a meeting and present a quick, like 5-6 minute show and tell, please shoot me an email and tell me what you have. And we can schedule something like that. Next, our next meeting is February 4th at 7:30. And Trenton Carls, who is the head librarian and archivist at the Cape Ann Museum Library, and Megan Swibb, who is the photo archivist, are going to present on their newly digitized photo archive of the Gloucester Times. They have that, some of it's online. I don't know if the entire collection is online yet, but they're going to share that collection with us and sort of talk about the process of processing the collection, digitizing it, making it available. And we're looking forward to having them then. And I just want to thank everyone who attended, and especially everyone who decided to share tonight. Really, so much fun. Thank you all.